All right, welcome back everyone. Hope everyone made the transition from the last stream smoothly. Our final presentation of the show is led by Lieutenant General Tim Hawk. General Hawk is Commander, 16th Air Forces, Commander, Air Force Cyber, and Commander, Joint Force Headquarters Cyber. That's a lot of hats, sir. If that wasn't enough, prior to that, the General was the Commander of the Cyber National Mission Force. He and his folks here have a great presentation for you this morning and a great way to cap off our show, so let me not take up any more of his time. And General, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And really, today, I'm just the intro act for incredible airmen that have been empowered as part of our effort to tap into the talent across our force. So today, what the intent is, I do want to give you just a little bit of a recap. I was here a year ago, right after 16th Air Force stood up. So I just want to talk a little bit about what we're focused on, what we're doing very quickly, and then transition to how we are working through this innovation, which is about how we tap into the talents of all of our incredible airmen and enable their skills to reach their potential to be able to impact our Air Force every day. So it'll work. I'll give a quick intro, then we're going to turn it over to Tech Sergeant Daniel Halter, who will introduce each of the work that has been done as part of our other airman initiative. And then at the end, Colonel Bill Wainick and I will have a conversation about what we've done to date and then where we see this going in the future. Next slide. So for everyone in the audience, clearly General Brown has given us a charge in Action Officer Charlie about competition. And from a 16th Air Force perspective, we really view ourselves as the competition force that can bring additional capabilities to combatant commands and air components in ways that are unique and different from what we've been able to do historically. And all of our air component teammates that are out there today that are being asked to compete, they're really doing it with capabilities that are built for conflict. And we're bringing other things with us to be able to discover what an adversary is doing, expose their activities in the battle space, and offer options to policymakers that span this spectrum of conflict, from competition, which means today, also into crisis, and then into conflict. Wanted to just touch on, we know what our adversary's intent is. China is our pacing adversary. They've told us what their strategy is. And in many respects, it involves space, cyber, and information as their strategy. As Admiral Richard said recently, operations in space, cyber, and information can be decisive. And from our perspective, we've got to be able to be the leading edge from our service perspective as part of the joint force to deliver options that will allow us to counter those adversary maneuvers. Next slide. Things we're working on in 2021. I could talk all day about the incredible work going on across 16th Air Force, whether that be on our network, in the options that we're presenting within our ISR enterprise, within our targeting, how our weather team's culture is now producing options for us to think about warfare differently. There's so many different activities that we're proud of across 16th Air Force and how quickly we've matured as an air component and as the component to U.S. Cyber Command. I just want to touch on a couple things based off of what is going on thus far at Rocky Mountain. An area that we're really proud of the work that is going on between Air Combat Command and 16th Air Force is our ability to have a much better site picture on our network. We run one of the largest networks in the world, and the work that is going on to build out our big data platform has really been a game changer for me as the Air Force Information Network Operations Commander into being able to see ourselves, see our vulnerability, and also to be able to respond as our nation has seen these many large events of cybersecurity vulnerability, rapidly being able to assess our site picture with all our partners across the United States. Our method to be able to produce new options in competition has been convergence. And I am immensely proud of what our wings are doing right now to bring together the capabilities and authorities we have in 16th Air Force to not only produce cyber outcomes, but now produce better intelligence product by our ability to collaborate, bring new data and authorities to our ISR, our Recce wings, and our targeting enterprise as we go forward. The other two areas across the top really relate to the center of this diagram. At its very core, it's about empowered airmen delivering outcomes for the nation. That's our why in 16th Air Force. And so we want to make sure our words and actions match. And if we're going to empower airmen, how do we give them the tools to be able to do that, to use their skills and talents? We've been focused on investing in our airmen, and that's where Ms. Knausenberger and Digital University, we've really embraced that. That's airmen being able to pursue studies in areas that they're passionate about. Could be coding, could be data science. But now if we've given them that training, how do we let them unleash that? How do we allow them to then use those tools and talents to make their units more effective and solve problems at their level in a more rapid and coherent way? We want every one of our airmen to know they're empowered, that we're a collaborative organization that's outcome focused, and we got to be connected to our teammates, and we've got to be innovative. This is one example today of what we're going to talk about where our words and actions have to match. That if we want to tell our airmen that we're going to empower them and we're going to allow them to use their skills as a digital airman, now how do we realize that? And this really gets after action order Bravo from the chief. And how do we strip away bureaucracy where then we can enable the full talents of our airmen? Excellent. So the concept for the other airmen, it started with the movie The Other Guys. So that will be important later. So you're gonna have to follow along in some of this discussion. And we labeled it The Other Airmen, which is how do we tap into the potential across our force that is really incredible. And I've seen examples of this where it's been incredibly successful within our organization, where individual airmen are able to make their operations more effective. But in most cases, that was by capability that was delivered by outside organizations, whether it was in the intelligence community where I've seen those processes probably be the most effective, some within Cyber Command. That doesn't really allow us to realize the potential across all of our Air Force units. So as we started with Colonel Wainick to say, how do we tap into low, no code opportunities to really tap into that talent? And that's where this concept was born. We told the team that we wanted to partner and we wanted to be a leader in this area because we wanted to enable our airmen to produce outcomes. And we see this as an enormous opportunity. And in many respects, I kind of liken it to where Nick Shalon was 2 to 3 years ago, trying to get us all to embrace the approach they were taking in Platform One and how much change that took to drive that. And now it's really being realized by the LCMC Airmen. Now we need to keep that moving inside of our units to find the right way to enable those skills and talents to make those units more effective. And so Colonel Wainick and Daniel will talk about how that partnership evolved with both industry and academia to make that a reality. And you'll get to hear directly from the airmen that produce these capabilities. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Tech Sergeant Daniel Halter, who's one of our great airmen in 16th Air Force, that we want to now walk through the outcomes from the various airmen. Over to you, Daniel.
Thank you so much, General Hawk. It's great to hear that focus on empowering airmen, especially as someone who's been a 16th Air Force airman for the last few years and 25th Air Force before that. We're really excited to spend a little while today reviewing what the Airmen and Guardians have been up to with the Other Airmen project. And I think we're just going to me now. Hello, everybody. My name is Technical Sergeant Daniel Holter. I'm a facilitator and user experience designer here at Air Force CyberWorks. And I am really grateful to Colonel Wainick for asking me to MC this showcase to share out the results of the Other Airmen project. This initiative equipped airmen and guardians from different skill communities, backgrounds, and mission sets to build out solutions using low-code, no-code platforms for a handful of supporting vendors. A number of our participants had never written a line of code in their lives, and that didn't stop or slow them down from achieving truly impressive outcomes. So we're really excited to show you what they came up with. But first, I'd like to share a few of my own thoughts really quick about equipping and empowering ground level innovation. I think Colonel Wainick was well aware that he couldn't put me on the mic without expecting me to rant a little bit. So from the first week of my first mission as a freshly minted linguist in 2008, I saw there was no shortage of problems to solve and processes to improve in my day-to-day work. And without being asked, I started building solutions right away. Part of what enabled my drive was the fact that as a digital native, someone who built my first computer when I was 12 years old, because my dad said I could have a computer, and then he handed me a box of components. I was familiar with what technology should be able to do for me. And that knowledge gave me this serious dissatisfaction with the status quo, which drove me to keep asking why and why not. And there's generally always a better way to do things. Some of us are tinkerers by temperament. There are lots of us out there, though some may suppress the urge, some might not have been activated and lack the intrinsic motivation, or they don't feel like they have permission. But as a tinkerer, if you put a piece of software in front of me, I'll go through and push all of the buttons one at a time to see what they do, to identify and flex the limits and possibilities in front of me. I'm a compulsive explorer of the adjacent possible. So as a command language program manager, I built out semi-automated dashboards for tracking language training and testing on SharePoint using third-party plugins. Sometimes I'd borrow SharePoint from the local Army unit because they had capabilities our Air Force SharePoint did not. I've tinkered with MillSuite, MillBook, DoD, Techipedia, Confluence, Jira, Microsoft Access, and building queries using Power Query and Microsoft Excel. And some, I'm sure there were plenty who thought I was wasting time tinkering with these things. But in my last unit, I spun up a simple dashboard that saved my superintendent hours every week, and it only took me a couple hours to throw it together. In the unit before that, I was able to create simple, effective data ingest and automation solutions and live interactive dashboards for almost every unit program that easily saved dozens of man hours per week. And all of that was the cumulative outcome of tinkering, of exploring the problems I experienced with experimenting with new ways of creating, organizing, and using data. The funny thing about all of that, I talk about these as like great accomplishments, but my little accomplishments over the years with developing solutions for my mission and units is that I'm not technologically impressive. It would not take you long in a conversation with me to find that my technical knowledge base is maybe expansive, but very shallow. But that's a significant part of what makes low code, no code so powerful. It doesn't demand that I have a new identity or a deep skill set. It's just that I'm able to explore and imagine new possibilities, to figure out the value that we need to create, which is a design competency. It shortens the distance between design and delivery. It does exactly what Thomas Friedman describes as the role of technology. It makes the complexity accessible, and then it makes it invisible. Some people see these technologies competing with more dedicated software development efforts. But there are plenty of people with coding expertise, including some who participated on this project, who could tell you why that's not a useful framing. And here's my view. People will always experience problems that might not rise to the threshold of warranting a dedicated software team to develop, deploy, and sustain a lasting solution. Airmen and guardians like me will continue to solve our own problems that won't win competitions and might not even make sense to scale beyond the local level because of how dynamic and tactical the environment is. Scaled solutions might not even make sense in a lot of cases, kind of like how best practices don't work in complexity. So we'll keep building solutions. There's no question there. You cannot stop motivated people from improving their work. You can't stop it. The question is whether they're equipped with safe, accessible, and effective methods to do so, right? So this is not a matter of whether we build new solutions for at the unit level for every problem that people experience. It's whether we stop the cycle of creating new access databases every time a program manager turns over, right? So there are lots of ways to keep out the wind and rain when the weather turns. You can't expect to build everybody a castle for their context. Sometimes they just need shelter now, and a tent will do the trick. You can't refuse to hand out tarps because a housing development would be preferable. And as they build out what they need based on context, it can help us discover useful design insights based on what they did, based on what they discovered with their experimentation, that let us know what should come next. Call it an MVP or a prototype and develop from there. But that said, a lot of the capabilities of modern low code, no code platforms are really mind boggling. Implemented robustly, they're not just prototyping tools. They can create lasting, adapting, scalable solutions as well. And you're going to see plenty of examples of these facts in action as we show you what the airmen and guardians who participated in the other airmen project were able to create in this really short period of time. But before we get into that, we're going to take a quick look At another low code, no code initiative, this is a video highlighting the robotic process automation efforts across the Air Force, launched last year after being featured on Spark Tank from some of our friends at AFPC, an effort which has evolved into this project called the Digital Wingman, another effort to help replace and eliminate time-consuming and repetitive tasks. So with that, let's take a minute to check out what they've been up to with robotic process automation and the Digital Wingman effort. If we get
As
that
I'm
video.
sure you all have felt, the pace and amount of work has increased drastically over the past 10 years, and our airmen are struggling to transform into this digital Air Force. Meanwhile, every day they are accessing, consuming, manipulating, digesting more and more data just to complete the basic requirements of their job. To help bridge this gap, we're using robotic process automation to automate these mundane, repetitive tasks that a human should not be doing. I've witnessed the impact and the benefit of this technology firsthand at AFPC. And just last year, I shared the Spark Tank stage with Sergeant Overbay, where we pitched this crazy idea of standing up an Air Force RPA Center of Excellence to enable more airmen like him to come up with ideas like the military bots for orders authentication like he did, and bring those ideas to life to make their jobs easier and allow them time to focus on the things that matter most to them. And since then, we have not slowed down. Our eclectic team from across the Air Force has been working tirelessly to stand up this RPA Center of Excellence. And through our journey, we've had the opportunity to train many of our airmen and guardian on robotic process automation. And to help us get there, the Air Force has funded a variety of tools to help us automate and enhance these capabilities. And while there are several organizations using RPA today, maybe somebody in the audience, I just want to take an opportunity to show you, what could possibly happen in your organization today. So on this slide, you'll see AFPC's, results of what their ROI is today. And although what you see today is numbers and statistics, some of the results you cannot see, right? They're the intangibles. It's how it makes the airman who's doing the job feel. We're taking the actual robot out of the human and removing these tasks that give them zero to no value and allowing them time to do things that actually make a difference to them and to the mission. And another wonderful example of that I want to share with you came out of our last Digital Wingman Challenge from Hanscom Air Force Base, and it's called the Bouncer Bot.
So I'm going to be talking about the bouncer bot. What that helps us with is running our CJIS background checks, so people through Massachusetts. So we scan the barcode, and then the bot kind of runs it through itself. All we have to do is click a couple buttons, and it speeds up the whole process for us. So it's really cut down on our time of being able to get people in and out. And it's really cut down on our human error issues. So if we're that way, we're not misspelling names, we're not misspelling birthdays and having to backtrack where it takes more time.
My name is James Newbrew. I'm the government lead over the RPA program at Hanscom Air Force Base. I'm going to go over our bouncer bot. There was a few problems that we quickly identified that needed to be solved. One, there was the lines that would gather at the visitor center just to wait in their time to get their passes. This was made apparent as you can even driving through our main gate and see this. Second was after we got a little bit more involved with it, we noticed that the background check was entirely manual. Security forces not only had to get the IDs, they needed to read them, and then after that, type that information from screen to screen to screen inside the program. This was time consuming. Because it was so much more time consuming, there was more manning that was required just to ensure customer needs were met. Then came the robotic process automation effort. On the left, you can see the before process steps security forces had to go through. The entire process, as indicated in blue, is manual. Security forces had to walk through each step manually, verifying data, typing in information, switching between screens, and then also verifying reports they received. On the right, after the automation, you can see the yellow squares that are now automated. The vast majority of the process has been now automated for the security forces folks. pushing more onto the bot than manual entry. Of course, security forces still has to intervene when it comes to checking flags from the reports to verify whether or not there's a risk for them coming on base, but then also giving the final approval allowing full control to stay within our security forces personnel. So what does this do for our airmen? Before the bouncer bot was implemented, our security forces would roughly run 50 to 100 IDs per day with an average time of 10 minutes per ID. So the total time to do 100 ID runs in a day was 16.7 hours. If they were to do 100 IDs for every day for the year, it would take about 486 manning days to complete. After the bouncer bot was implemented, the number of IDs run daily remained 50 to 100 IDs on average, but the average time was reduced from 10 minutes to 3 minutes per ID. The total time to do 100 IDs a day has been drastically reduced from 16.7 to 5 hours for the day. And if they were to do 100 IDs every day for an entire year, it would only require 146 manning days to complete. This is an overall savings of 70% for our security forces folks. The future of the Balancer bot is promising. This bot is already operational and it works here at Hanscom Air Force Base. The true future that we're trying to push for this bot is to share it with the rest of the Air Force. 66ABG-SC is already coordinating with bases to begin implementation of the Bouncer bot at their location, sharing these time savings.
So the Bouncer bot is automated, which increases productivity for us and it removes repetitive tasks. So we're able to put our attention on other things that are needed. We appreciate this program and we look forward to serving the Hanscom community with it.
This bouncer bot's pretty awesome, right? And this actual demo was created by citizen developers, and they're part of our, like I said earlier, they're part of our last digital wingman challenge. And so they came into our competition with, little to no experience about how to use this technology. And they were able to not only create this prototype, but something that has scalability, right? We could use this at a variety of locations across the Air Force. And this is only solving to one of their many problems that they encounter every day, right? And so through this, they were able to not only save so many man hours that you can see on the screen, they're able to save time for the customer, right? Making a better customer experience throughout the process. And if you're like many of the other folks we've talked to across the Air Force and you experience the pain of completing repetitive processes or verifying data day in and day out, or doing things that you determine to be low value or no value tasks just to display or share data, then we would love to extend an invitation to you to participate in our next Wingman Challenge. And as you can see on the slide, our next RPA Challenge will kick off on 15 March, and you can sign up today as an individual or bring your team along, and you can utilize the QR code or the Eventbrite link you see on the slide to go ahead and sign up today. And through this experience, and we call it experience because it's so much more than just creating a bot on your own. We provide a platform for you to get this in-depth training on basic programming skills, on user-centered design to make sure you're solving to the right issue, and allow you the coaches and the mentorship you need to work through this new technology to develop a real MVP that could impact the entire Air Force. If you have additional questions or comments after seeing this presentation, please feel free to use that email address you see on the slide today. And we look forward to sharing this technology and seeing what kind of automations you can apply in your day-to-day life today. And just imagine what you could do with an extra 30 minutes or an hour a day or a week that you could save using robotic process automation. Thank you again for having us and allowing us to share our story. And we look forward to having you as part of our challenge. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much to our friends with the robotic process automation and digital wingman efforts. That's incredibly exciting stuff. And there's a theme there that I really think is worth highlighting, which the digital wingman and RPA folks have done a good job of stressing, which is the human-centered aspects of low code, no code. I think we should all be on board with giving human beings the agency to carry out their tasks in the way that makes the most sense, which they are often uniquely equipped to identify, giving them back their time, giving them agency and ownership from a basis of values and intent. Like General Hawk mentioned in his slides opening, to me, it's like the principles of mission command brought to an individual level. So at this point, we're going to go through the projects from the Airmen and Guardians who worked with Air Force CyberWorks and our partner vendors on the other airmen. And first up, we have Technical Sergeant Nicholas Boone, a computer support technician at the 95th Reconnaissance Squadron. He worked with the company Betty Blocks using their platform to develop the information system access request solution that he called Boondocks.
The number one security vulnerability is people. That is why controlling system access is critical to securing an information system. Boondocks is a tool that can reduce the burden of system access requests on the user and the system owners. Boondocks provides a streamlined user experience and guides users through the access request process and ensures the process is completed correctly. It also offers a unified repository for tracking and reporting, improving oversight of access requests. Additionally, as Boondocks gets integrated with more authoritative Air Force data sources, the integrity of the information and the security of our information systems will increase. Let's jump in and look at the user's experience. First, a user will need to log in to Boondocks. Once logged in, the user will arrive at their home page. On this page, they can update their profile information. This page also shows a list of all the requests the user has made and allows creation of new requests. Now we will go through an example access request. First, we click Request Account. We are then provided a form that allows us to select the type of account we need and provide our justification for access. Once we fill out this form, we click Sign and Submit. When we click this button, Betty Blocks collects all the information it can, from its own records and any external APIs we have access to. Then it generates a DocuSign envelope and pre-fills all the information it can. After that is completed, the user is directed to the forms for signing. DocuSign guides the user through the signing and ensures that all the required fields are filled. After the user finishes signing, they are returned to the details page of their request. This page lists all the requirements of the account request and indicates if they are completed or not. This page also shows the status of the request so the user can track its progress. Let's see where the form went after the user signed it. We can see that our supervisor has an email from DocuSign with a link to the document. Just like before, they are guided through the signing process by DocuSign. This pattern repeats until all signatures are completed. Now, if we look back at the user's request, we can see the status is complete and all the required items are done. You can see that there are 2 forms required for this request, but Betty Blocks and DocuSign allow us to combine them and complete them in one task. Now let's look at the interface and options that unit IAOs and other elevated users can access. This is the back office. This area allows for configuration, management, and review. First, we will look at the user that just completed their request. This view allows us to see all the accounts a user has requested and access any of the forms or training they have completed. Finally, we look at the process settings area. The process settings controls what kind of account requests a user can make and defines the requirements that need to be completed to satisfy the request. These options control the process and allow quick and easy updates anytime the AFI or STIGs are changed. By providing a streamlined user experience that guides users through the access request process and offering a unified repository for tracking and reporting, Boondocks can reduce the burden on the user and the system owners while improving process integrity. Additionally, as we get integrated with more Air Force data sources, we will reduce our reliance on people providing accurate information, thus increasing the surety of the information and security of our information systems.
All right, and next up we have Master Sergeant Andrew Pearson and Spec 3 Kyle Hackett with a project called Better Than Nothing.
Any commander at any level, any chief, squadron superintendent, and senior non-commissioned officer can tell you that the Air Force does not offer an enterprise-level manpower system. Each type of member, military, civilian, or contractor, uses a different system for tracking, and the data formats, even among similar systems, do not match and make it difficult to use common tools like Excel and Access to merge the data unless you are a software engineer. This makes it difficult, for example, to give your development managers, training manager, or security manager an authoritative list of unit manpower without leaking private data. This system solves that. Our tool, as a total force manpower system, imports the information from the base level services delivery model, or BLISDM, website, such as the Alpha roster, as well as the civilian position control roster, and merges it with information already stored in the system using a simple web interface that is clear and user-friendly. For contractors, there is no Air Force level solution for tracking them, but we offer a simple web form to enable units to add, update, and delete contractors. In the video presented, you'll witness us importing a military alpha roster, then a civilian roster, and watch as we merge that data together. Then, we'll take another military alpha roster, perhaps from a following quarter, and import it into the database once again. We'll demonstrate how we merge that data seamlessly together. Additionally, you'll see how our tool gives you complete control of the merge process, giving you the ability to select what data is merged, what data is deleted, and what data is unaffected. Then, we'll show you a review process where you can see the complete roadmap of how the merge will progress. As simple as this system appears on the surface, there is a lot of work being done under the hood to pull the data together. This system may not appear significant, but if you'd ever tried to perform this work by hand, you'd be surprised. And what you see here is only version 1. We have a lot more ideas on how we can take tedious, redundant, and often 2 to 3 decades old processes and streamline them. Imagine reorganizing a squadron by dragging and dropping billets and personnel. Then, with one click of a button, you could download a complete organizational change request, or OCR. That's just one of our many ideas.
The Automated Programming Interface, or API, enables integration of our tool with other tools, similar to the ones you've seen today. These tools could be built on any low-code, no-code platform and utilize our API for an authoritative list of squadron manpower while also limiting the exposed information to what is required and necessary for the tools accessing the data. For example, a unit training manager does not require access to an assignment availability code, since that could expose whether or not the member is under an investigation. Likewise, a unit deployment manager does not require access to a spouse's social security number. That information is hidden with a role-based token so that private information is kept private.
We offer 2 endpoints for our users. The first endpoint gets a list of all users in the database and their ID number. The second endpoint gets a single member from the database. Using the token, we identify which data the user is allowed to see. In this example, the user is using a flight chief token and so gets a limited set of information. In this example, the user is using a superintendent token and gets the complete roster.
By using our API, we solved the problem of pooling manpower information into one source so that other tools will not have to deal with the same problem we did. We like to think that we have laid the foundation for others to achieve even greater success.
All right, and next up we have Technical Sergeant Jonathan Ward with the project called ASAP.
Greetings, I'm Technical Sergeant Jonathan Ward with the 363rd ISR Wings Technical Directorate. I partnered with Zudi to utilize their Vinyl platform. During my time in the Air Force as a computer systems programmer, I coded in ActionScript, JavaScript, XML, and HTML. I've taken classes in Python, C++, Java, and Visual Basic. Although I have experience with these languages, they did not give me special insight in creating my automated scheduling assistance program. As a military training instructor, working in the War Skills and Military Studies flight of the 319th Training Squadron, I was bothered by how inefficient the process was to schedule instructors to classes in basic military training. A team of 2 to 3 instructors would spend upwards of 3 days creating a schedule using Microsoft Excel, Adobe Acrobat, and Microsoft Outlook. It was time-consuming to select available instructors, to verify who was unavailable, that the instructor was certified to actually teach the class, and that teaching time was fairly allocated throughout the flight. This process was prone to errors, especially when the BMT scheduling office made last-minute changes to the class schedule. To solve that problem, I created my application to automate the instructor assignment process. Now, allow me to demonstrate how that works. As you can see here on the screen, we have 2 lines of instruction created. You can see that they're different lines because they are with different flights. This is how the WSMIS flight, the War Skills and Military Studies flight, this is how they divvy up their instruction. They create a line of instruction and assign that line of instruction to an instructor. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a new line. We're just going to do some basic courses like CAF. I type in my flight. I select the room that I'm going to be teaching it in. We'll say we'll be doing it in DCF 2, room 302. The squadron is going to be the 331st Training Squadron. It's going to start April 1st, and we'll go with the time of 0900 in the morning. I create my class. It populates over here on the right. The next class in the line is going to be GI Bill. Same flight, same room, same squadron. All we need to change now is the end time. Create that class there, and that ends at 11 o'clock. That flight's going to be breaking for lunch. That's the end of that line. We're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and close that window. You see that new line of instruction has been created down here. That's all the classes that are being done for this period of time. I'm ready to go ahead and assign instructors to those classes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my auto assign button down here. It's going to ask if I want to assign the unassigned classes on the screens. Hit proceed. And now I have all these instructors assigned to these lines. One of the other things we created was the ability to create a PDF of the schedule. To do that, we use our filter here to create whatever schedule we want to display on the PDF over here. In this case, the week of instruction from March 29th to April 2nd with the PDF button, and it generates a PDF of that schedule. One of the other things that we wanted to do was create a way to email out the schedule. So we created an email button. What that's going to do is it's going to send an email that we created in the system that can be edited by the user. And it's going to also generate a PDF to send with that email. I open it up. I'm going to select who I want to send it to, which can be edited by the user. I'm going to send it to myself at my Gmail account here. Send. Email's been sent. See, I got a new email here. Open that up. This is the one here with Technical Sergeant Howard, Technical Sergeant Truitt, Technical Sergeant Duncan. Now, utilizing Vinyl, we developed this auto assignment function working just part-time in less than a month. That's how quickly we were able to come up with the logic to make this happen. This is done utilizing the platform's business logic layer and maybe 10 lines of SQL. That's all the coding we actually had to do. While developing the logic for this function, I felt that we could utilize the application to do more. So we began developing course profile pages and instructor profile pages. This allows us to track stats on courses and instructors as well. We can utilize the course page, say for Air Force organization, to determine who has the most experience teaching the course. Then we can manually assign that instructor to the class for, say, when a distinguished visitor is observing it, and we want our most experienced instructor teaching that class. So given the flexibility of the Vinyl platform and the easy to use interface, I feel that this application can be adapted to meet the scheduling needs of other units by airmen within those units. Or this application can be utilized as a template for other units to create their own applications. Once again, I'm Technical Sergeant Ward, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Tech Sergeant Ward. And next up, we have a project from citizen developer Dana Uehara called the Gecko Ticket Tracker.
So I'm Dana Uehara, the webmaster here at the 17th Operational Weather Squadron, or 17 OWS, here at HICM. I've had pretty extensive coding experience. Most of my coding has been in Code Fusion. I've also had done some work in JavaScript, jQuery, as well as HTML. And I've been working with Betty Blocks as a low-code, no-code vendor. They've been very helpful in the basic web design, especially the front-end design. I really like the visual interface, the drag and drop capability. Their interface has been really great, and I've been able to come up with this. So I'm going to demonstrate this morning is going to be our ticket project tracker. I'll call it the Gecko Ticket Tracker because we nicknamed our squadron the Fighting Geckos. So we're going to go and start. I'm going to go ahead and log in. So log in with an email address and password. So I will just use my .mail address, and I will use a password. Now, this email address is not in the system. So what happens is when I go ahead and click login, it's going to tell me it's not in the system, and it's going to give me the opportunity to register. So again, unable to log you in, please check your email address and password or click register. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just click the register button, and this is going to take me to a register dialog. And here I can type in my name. So first name, last name, email address, again, dana.oehara3@us.af.mil. And then I'm going to create a password here, and then retype the password to confirm it. And then I'm going to register. So successful. So now I'm going to go ahead and log in. So email address, again here, and then password. And I'm going to log in. Now, if I forgot my password, there is an option to reset the password, but you can see when it logged in, it dropped me into what the tracker is going to look like. So it's listed by all tickets and projects. Tickets showing these are the ones that people have opened in the squadron where there's something that's broken, they need it fixed, something's not working right. Project is for anything that's new, that is a new requirement that they need somebody to develop it, somebody to work on. They need a web page rebuilt, for example. So this is, again, a list of everything, and then I have it sorted out by tickets. So you can click on tickets, shows you all the tickets that are open, and then you click on projects, and it shows you all the projects that are opened. And there's also options to open a new ticket or project, as well as log out. And so here's a project. Again, I have one project open. Now, if you click on either the ticket or the project, in this case, I'll click on the project, it'll actually give you more details on the project itself. Who opened it, date opened, who opened it, what's the category. We have different categories, and I'll get into that in a bit. If there's a location or computer name, they'll be in here as well. If there's different enclaves, we have 3, NIPRNet, CIPRNet, and Centris K. It'll check the box depending on what the user selected when they opened it. The status, last updated, and who updated it. And if there's any entries made into this specific ticket or project. So to kind of show you how these fields get populated, I'm going to open a new one. So again, click open a new ticket, and we select the type. We can do ticket or project. In this case, I'm going to do a ticket. The category, we have all different types of categories. For this demo, I'm going to choose SharePoint. For the subject, I'm going to say unable to log on to 17 OWS SharePoint site. There's no location or computer name on this one. This enclave is going to be on NIPRNet on the low side. Mission impact, let's say it's low. And description, I'm going to put cannot log on to SharePoint, receiving permission denied error. And once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and open it. And it's going to add it into the database, and it tells you, okay, successfully opened. We go to tickets, and we'll show you again. This is the newest one that I clicked, and down here we can update. So I'm going to say the emission impact is low. The priority is low. This is my priority as a person working on it. So as a person working on this ticket, I would actually see this field. Other people would not see it. Stats will be open, and the work log entry, I'm just going to say added user leaving open for 24 hours to process. And I hit update, and now wait for this to update, and you can see where the mission impact and the WXS priority updated, as well as the entry date, who updated it, and the work log entry. And I actually got a lot further on this project than I originally had planned. My biggest hurdles and challenges with the project were part of it was getting used to the interface, but I really love the drag and drop capability to just drag and drop and create some really nice looking modules. I also was using an older version of the web page builder. They had a newer version, but for whatever reason, AFNet didn't like it. So I could create the nice little layout, but I couldn't actually view it. Did want to give a shout out to Chris and Robin at Betty Blocks. They were extremely helpful, very supportive, kept in touch with me through email, kept in touch with me through Slack. And so with the demo done, I'm just going to go ahead and hit log out. And we're going to go ahead and log out. And again, it tells you log out, takes you back to the login screen. And that is pretty much it for my application.
All right, next up we have Captain David Kuski with his project called Saber.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Captain David Kuski, pilot at the 343rd Wisconsin Squadron off at Air Force Base. I was assigned to work with Squid, and prior to this, I have no formal design or coding experience. This is Saber, an app I created because of how convoluted and error-prone the process of getting ready for TDY or deployment is currently. This is because my squadron and others rely on ad hoc Excel sheets, standalone access databases, shared folders, and email documents to manage personnel, send training requests and reports, assign individuals to deployments, and to do other unit-level personnel tasks. Because this is inefficient, my approach was to consolidate all those standalone trackers into linked Salesforce objects, and then to create user and office-specific Squid pages that surface the relevant Salesforce data and allow us to create and manage group deployments, send in training requests, upload documents, and generate custom reports from that data. One of the biggest hurdles was creating an effective system of creating and assigning users to TDYs and creating training records. Originally, I also wanted to include combat mission ready reports for upcoming deployments, but due to the limitations of exporting data from PECs, that wasn't feasible. So when a user arrives on Saber, they have various tabs. Their user tab will show them their own information by default. And on the personal info page, what they have is a couple of forms that will allow them to see all their individual information and edit anything that's inaccurate, as well as all of their duty and career information that has been surfaced from the alpha roster, as well as a tab that shows them all their security investigation information and their security folder. If they go over to the deployments tab, the first thing they're greeted by is a summary of what TDYs and upgrade training they are currently assigned to in descending order, which they can then go into the squadron scroll, which shows all the current TDYs for your organization with numerous filters applied. For instance, I can only show the current TDYs that are happening right now. Or if I wanted to hide all of our upgrade training, I can do that. So I can go into here, and if I want to see details about a specific trip, I can expand that to view the entire crew as well as any other remarks or amplifying information about that particular trip. So let's say I'm on a upcoming TDY and need to accomplish some of my required mobility training. If I go into the Users tab, under ground scheduling, if I know that I need to accomplish a particular training event, I can open up a dialog box where I can submit whatever training event I would like to accomplish for myself. And when I save that, that will then show up in my individual record of my ground training requests. And when I go over to our scheduling flight, they will then see a summary of all the recent training requests that have been submitted and can prioritize those or check off that those have been assigned. Once I've done that training event and I go over to my training mobility tab, I can see a summary of the recent training events that I have completed. And if I accomplish a new training event, I have a Form 1522, I can open up a dialog box where I can then fill in the information for what training events I just completed, the date that it was completed on, and then I can assign numerous users to that training event. And whoever I put on this report will have that record surface on their own individual user page. So everybody has visibility over all the training events they've completed, and I can also attach a file to indicate that I have a hard copy record of that. So I'll have a summary, and last up, it'll direct me to file that event in PEX or System of Records so that I get credit for it. And that's saved that, so now it'll show up under my recent training events that I've completed. For any items that go into my individual mobility folder, I have a dialog box here that will walk me through the process of uploading those things to AAF Online from my online mobility folder. Again, it'll direct me to log that training in PEX so I get credit for it. And then finally attaching a file, which once I do that, it'll then save to my mobility folder in the correct format, where then if I so choose, I can open up the attachment and see that particular document whenever I'm signed on. So that is what I can do on the individual page. I also have other tabs too created for the different roles in our squadron. So on the ADO page, they have the same squadron scroll for assigning people to deployments. And they also have options where they can then search for which personnel we have available for a given date range, as well as seeing the deployment history for any individual person. So this way it makes it easier to see who do we have available and to get an at-a-glance summary of what the deployment history of a particular person is. Same thing as well for the SARM office that receives those ground training events. They now have a list of all the recent ones that have been submitted, as well as any ones that have been signed off by them, but have not yet been submitted into PEX. Our mobility shop can see any individual person's mobility folder and any documents that they have uploaded. On our security page, they can now see all the users that have been recently added, as well as any that have had security critical information change. And on their security tracker, this would normally be an Excel sheet, but right now we have that uploaded in Salesforce for all their training dates, data import from JCAVs, as well as their security folder itself, and have other forms for expiring training and any upcoming investigations. Very similar thing for our manpower. They can see all the individuals in the squadron as well as the information that they've inputted. And lastly, our leadership has one page where they can view the master recall roster for the entire squadron. It's updated in real time, as well as that list of all of our upcoming deployments. So in summary, what we've done with Sabre is improved efficiency by eliminating a lot of the failure points in our processes. I'm no longer reliant on a access product that may break if it's used improperly, or relying on email to transfer documents or training records back and forth. So by reducing those failure points, I've saved a considerable amount of time and strain in the squadron in order to get ready for an upcoming deployment. And because it's based in the Salesforce cloud, our data is secure and it's accessible anywhere I have an internet connection, not necessarily when I'm on the local network. So this is a summary that would greatly improve the efficiency of our operations, and ultimately was something that we needed yesterday in order to improve our effectiveness and to reduce time wasted.
All right, fantastic. And our last citizen developer to present will be Stephanie Van Dyne to close out today's presentations with her incredible acquisitions focused project called SYNAC.
My name is Stephanie Van Dyne, and I'm a contracting officer from the Space Acquisition Management Directorate at Headquarters Space Operations Command. I am currently participating in Education with Industry at Catalyst Campus for Technology and Innovation. Innovation ecosystems such as CyberWorks are leading the charge to help solve challenging problems at scale through collaboration with government, industry, and academia. Unfortunately, barriers to entry still exist, and for a company to ultimately be successful, they must deliberately navigate through all the barriers of entry to showcase their solution, not just to anyone within the government, but to the end user whose problem can be solved. Utilizing Zudi's no-code application development platform called Vinyl, I built an app with zero coding experience. Synac is a digital point of entry. Whether you're a company seeking to solve problems or a user looking for solutions, Synac is the bridge to your three-way handshake. As your source for innovation, programs can synchronize upcoming events in a consolidated calendar. Users can access a program's website, and you can also learn about their existing contracts. Users can view solicitations posted on sam.gov through an application programming interface connection known as an API. By having acquisition mechanisms in place, users can leverage existing solicitations to rapidly acquire commercial technologies and innovative products and services. Another feature is an API connection to Twitter to allow users to see what's happening with each of the programs. Here is an overview of events facilitated by programs such as CyberWorks. Events such as tech showcases provide companies an opportunity to demonstrate problem-solving technology for projects like the other Airmen that advocate for citizen developers to deliver innovation on the edge. To learn more about companies like Zudi, users can access information such as their System for Award Management record. Entity information is accessed via an API to pull dynamic information such as their core company data, primary NAICS code, and company point of contacts. You can view a list of government-sponsored projects a company was previously selected for to help demonstrate defense need. Companies can showcase their solution on Synac to government end users and potential teaming partners. As opposed to traditional written proposals, companies can upload pitch decks, info papers, and explainer videos. Digital media can serve as oral presentations and are one of the most effective ways to present a solution in a simple and understandable way. To help make the right connections, solutions can be categorized by the NAICS code, technology readiness level, and Air Force Science and Technology Strategy topic. As part of market research, users can also learn about a company's current and prior contracts. Synac populates dynamic information from APIs from sources such as the Small Business Administration's cyber.gov website so that you can view a company's Phase 1 or Phase 2 contract to help cross the valley of death. Users can also view information from the Federal Procurement Data System, the source for viewing details about contract-specific information, such as the type of appropriation that was obligated, period of performance, and designated contracting and funding offices. Some of the hurdles I had to overcome during the development of the app were limitations I put on myself. As someone with no coding experience, I did not think I could develop an app. However, after completing courses through Zudi's online academy and with their support, I developed an MVP in a single weekend and helped build continuous improvements to make Synac a more dynamic marketplace. Synac is currently connected to 5 APIs, and future capabilities will include additional API connections to populate information from sources such as grants.gov and DoD Trusted Capital Marketplace. Other capabilities will allow government users to complete customer memorandums and fund matching forms, and also provide a means to give feedback to companies to help them better adapt their commercial solution for government use. In the age of great power competition, we must deliver war-fighting capabilities by integrating new technologies at the speed of relevance. Defense innovation requires more than just acquisition reform. It requires a transformation of how we do business. By instilling human-centered design, Synac will help bridge problems and solutions in a modern and agile way.
Okay, well, I'll jump in. Hey, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody. This is Colonel Bill Wainick, the Director of Air Force CyberWorks. And I wanted to say a quick thank you. If we could just go back to that slide, please, just real quick. We had, when General Hawk directed us to enable innovation at the edge for his airmen, we obviously couldn't do it alone with Air Force CyberWorks, at Air Force CyberWorks. So we relied on a lot of partners helping us out here. First, I want to make sure that I say thank you to the Projo who did a lot of the grunt work, is Staff Sergeant Michael Eichen, who is a programmer here at CyberWorks. And then, of course, our partnership intermediary is C-Track, that is run out of Catalyst Campus. Our partners in the industry space that our partnership intermediary recruited for this included Zudi and Betty Blocks and Squid, who you saw some of the demonstrations from, and from the RPA challenge, the Digital Wingman Challenge, you saw UiPath, and we also had teammates with Siemens Mendex and Crowdbotics. So fantastic work by everybody, and this kicked off really beginning of November. And so between November and here, including the holidays and everything else like that, you got to see some of the capabilities from the citizen developers within 16th Air Force as well as U.S. Space Force. So, sir, General Hawk, just wanted to make sure that I gave a shout out to our teammates on the industry side and whatnot. But over to you for comments and/or questions.
So one, it's really inspiring, like to see airmen and unleash their talent. If you look at what Major Moynihan said, as part of this is Major Moynihan said, this is partly about an airman being able to see a problem and solve it. And how frustrating is it when you know it's right there in front of you and you have the talent, you have the skill, you have the ability to solve a problem, but now we're going to be fighting forward to be able to solve that. And I think this is what Action Order Bravo is about. What General Brown is telling us to do is find ways to solve problems, use the resources we have in the most effective manner. And I think we're seeing that throughout our Air Force in the work that is going on today in Cloud One and Platform One across our acquisition team. Now, how do we replicate that in doing things like the robotics and doing things like low code, no code to allow units to be able to find their own destiny within the problems they can solve? And I think this was a really exciting set of examples of where that can get done. And from my standpoint, when we think about the other airmen, every airman in 16th Air Force, we're the Phoenix of 16th Air Force. And we think about the other airmen is that you want airmen to be saying, I'm a Phoenix, Captain, you got to let me fly. And we want to be able to enable that in everything that we're doing every single day in terms of empowering airmen. And so I welcome, if there's any questions, Bill, that we've got from the audience, or if there's any other comments that you or Sergeant Holter would like to make, I turn it back.
Sir, I would normally give it back to Daniel, but his 5 minutes, he tried to turn it into more than that, but I think every opportunity we get a chance to hear his insight is amazing. And for once, his commentary was not over my head, which was nice. But sir, we do have a few questions if we can get your comments or the team's comments. And the first one was, how can other bases and organizations get access to these tools? And wanted to see what if you had a potential response. If not, I know we can definitely source that.
Yeah, so I think for this, what we really wanted to do is we wanted to prove that this is really something that we could do, and how airmen were able to take these tools and apply them were really good examples of how we want to go forward. So from my perspective now, I'm the lead action officer to work with our teammates like Ms. Knausenberger and Nick Shalon to talk about what's the way forward, what's the way we can host these tools in a manner that makes it accessible, consistent with industry best practice, for us to be able to leverage. And I think there are definitely opportunities for us to partner with where the RPA activities are going forward, that this is a natural extension from my perspective of that work. So I think we owe you a clear answer to that. And I think partly what I'd ask operational units to do is put your demand forward. Like if you have airmen that want to solve this, regardless whether you're in 16th Air Force or anywhere in our Air Force, is this something for you that you would allow to solve problems? I suspect it is. But now we should be talking together about how we put this as a digital Air Force approach and also a digital Space Force approach as the Department of the Air Force. A lot of opportunity here to unleash the talent of our air.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Another question, if you want me to take first crack at it, let me know. But it was, how are all these initiatives being assessed and authorized under risk management framework requirements?
You can go first, and then I can follow up.
Okay, sir. So demand signal comes first, like the boss said. If we can get the demand signal out there to purchase license, I mean, that's really for the first part is like if we can get the demand signal, get the licenses out there, and then we'll go through the onboarding process with the DoD platforms. And so with the onboarding process, you know, if we can get it onto Cloud One, Platform One, Kessel Run, then we would follow the RMF path that they and the vendors would follow the RMF path.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, as you know, as an authorizing official and somebody as we work through this with ACC and General Radigi, it would be also how do we start the process within a set of APIs that allows it a seamless onboard. Like those are certainly areas that we're smart enough as a service to be able to put these containers inside of some boundaries that say, here's what's going to allow us to onboard it rapidly, quickly, in a consistent manner, industry best practice. That's work that would be a little bit of upfront work. We've now proven how to do this. Now we should do a little bit of work on what that would look like. I assume the RPA team's going through a lot of that same work. And how does this now naturally extend to a set of APIs that we're comfortable with, containers or applications that deliver that in a manner that would allow us to very seamlessly onboard these capabilities in a common way. Over.
Yes, sir. And you actually you got two questions with one answer there because there was a question about the APIs as well. So thank you, sir.
I'd just like to add in just one
sure.
comment. Yeah, absolutely. Just one comment to that. And it's that I think that one of the biggest security threats that we have is human decision making. And I think that one of the, like obvious, like General Hawk said, if we can set the limits, right, within which people can solve their own problems, you like kind of what the point of my talk earlier was, you don't get to say whether or not people solve their own problems. They will, because they're intrinsically driven to do that. And that's a really valuable thing. So if you don't have a say in how they do that, it's way less safe than trying to say, no, don't do that, and then not having a say in how they end up doing that.
Great point, Daniel. I am sensing there may have been times in your past where you've done that.
I'm going to plead the fifth at this point.
Yes, sir. All right. Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate that add on too. Awesome stuff as usual. So next question is, how do we create an environment where a citizen developer can thrive while satisfying the enterprise onboarding requirements that tend to be a barrier to entry? So how do we create an environment where citizen developers can thrive while satisfying the enterprise onboarding requirements that tend to be a barrier to entry?
So I think that's the work that we've got to do up front. Those are those right and left boundaries that Daniel was talking about. If we set the right and left boundaries, you know, from a container perspective, we should be able to manage risk. We should be able to manage onboarding in a consistent, repetitive way that would allow us to do that. It means there is work that has to go on up front to really unleash the power of the airmen. But it started with, let's let these airmen show the path, and really appreciative of them showing that. Now the work's on us to be able to unleash that potential that they clearly demonstrated through this, which we knew was pent up and available to us inside our force.
Excellent, sir. And we have time for one more question. First off, they say this is incredibly exciting to see airmen empowered to solve problems. And their question is, how are documentation, sustainment, or certification implications being addressed? And thanks again for sharing the great work. And I can chime in if you'd like as well, sir. Okay. So in true innovation fashion, you know, when we were pitching this to General Hawk and he gave the go do, it was about let's develop MVPs, and we wanted to make sure that we weren't being encumbered by what you mentioned. And I know that's probably not the answer you want to hear, but we wanted to get after the MVPs first to show the viability of low code, no code. Right. And so obviously what's going to happen next is, you know, once this room or a Zoom room comes up with the demand signal and we get these onboarded onto a Cloud One or Platform One, that those are some of the answers that we can be working along with our teammates over at the RPA, the Digital Wingman Challenge. Once again, the Digital Wingman Challenge #3 is coming up. Don't forget to sign up. But yes, those are all important things that we need to consider with the documentation and certification and everything else like that. But that's going to be iterated on as we continue to move forward. So, sir, over to you.
Yeah, so I would put this as an analogy to, in some respects, to what we're doing with Digital University, which is we started with, hey, let's Lauren put together the team that brought training to airmen, and then that allowed us to kind of feel of which things are of interest, which ones are of value, how can we leverage industry-based training in areas where our airmen are only going to work with an industry's product. That only makes good sense. So from that, we've now had the 688 Cyberspace Wing start to lay out how you would do a cloud certification that is leveraging commercial training only, and then do some sort of check your eye to validate, but not try to keep up with industry's training, use their training. And so the framework that Ms. Knausenberger provided and the team provided for Digital U starts that discussion, and now we can mature it into the areas that we think will have the most value to airmen in our Air Force. We're at the beginning of this process right now in low code, no code, which is we're demonstrating the value, which of these capabilities will airmen gravitate to, and also allow us then to feed whatever API or container that we are comfortable with from a service perspective is the work that we've got to do now. This is really prove the concept, begin to build the MVPs, but now we should be going into the work of how do you make this now sustainable, enduring, long term, much in the way the RPA team described their work and their next steps based off of where they started a little bit before the low code, no code effort. This is a perfect trajectory for us to experiment and then determine how to lock this in an appropriate way, consistent with what airmen get value from, what we can solve problems with, and do it in a way that we're comfortable with as a service.
Well, sir, that was awesome, and thank you. I just got to thank you again for allowing us to run this initiative for you to show the viability. This is it was a massive win to get your advocacy and your vision for this, and just getting after exactly what the airmen at the edge need and guardians at the edge need, and so we're really excited to continue to help move this forward, and we'll be providing everything that you need to all the ammo you need to help continue to champion and advocate. But this has been a really great project, and I'm, like I said, one more time, thank you so much. And sir, over to you for closing.
So one, want to thank the Rocky Mountain team for allowing us to do this, to be able to show off airmen that have been empowered to go do things and solve problems. That's exciting. That's exactly what the chief has asked us to do. And we saw it throughout this week of where those initiatives are having impact across our service, and proud to be able to advocate for these airmen that were on the screen today, and all of their fellow citizen coders and low coders that are out there that want to solve problems. I want to thank Colonel Wainick. I want to thank Ms. Patrick. I want to thank Tech Sergeant Halter and all of the developers that were a part of this activity for your leadership in challenging how we can use our talent in our Air Force every single day. Really excited to continue to be your advocate on any part of this because we gave you a hard problem, and you produced results really quickly in enabling airmen to produce outcomes. Thanks for all of your collective leadership. Have a great day.
All right, General Hawk, thank you very much for taking time with us today. I wholly agree. I can't think of a better or more inspiring way to end the show than seeing our people actually take the things we've been talking about here this week and applying them to real world problems and solving things and making things better for everybody out there on the front lines, so to speak. So thank you again for taking time with us. I know everyone's schedules are really jammed and appreciate your insights, and hopefully look forward to hearing a little more about progress next year, perhaps even in person. So thanks again for your time today. Okay, at this point, I want to bring back onto the stage